Second here. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for that little delay there. Welcome to today's virtual town hall hosted by the County of Los Angeles Probation Oversight Commission. I will officially call this meeting of the Probation Oversight Commission to order at 6:02 p.m. on Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. Wendy, can you please get us started?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Carrillo, and I appreciate all of you for being here today. For those of you who have attended our town halls in the past, tonight is slightly different than what you've experienced before in that we are hosting it as a formal public meeting of the Probation Oversight Commission, although we will only have one item on the agenda, and that is the discussion of the Secure Track Youth Facilities. And the Commission will not be taking any action tonight requiring a vote. We're actually not expecting to have a quorum of commissioners in attendance tonight, but we will proceed with the meeting as an open meeting and just not take any actions. Our meeting is being broadcast live, as you heard, to our Facebook page. There will also be a recording available afterwards on our website. You can watch the meeting live on Facebook, but cannot interact on Facebook. You can also follow our social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at LA County POC for more information about our meetings and to invite others to attend. So tonight's meeting has two main sections. First, we'll hear from members of the JJCC JRBG Subcommittee, that's Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council, Juvenile Justice Realignment Block Grant Subcommittee, and representatives from probation, as well as from 3 members of our community who have lived experience in the youth justice system. We'll give the commissioners who are present a short time to share their comments on this issue if they wish. But the majority of time this evening will be spent listening to members of the public who may have comments about the decision about where to house and how to have the programs in these secure track facilities. The POC welcomes your participation, and I'll explain how that will work after the presentations. For those of you who are accustomed to our process, you may note that the raise your hand function is going to be disabled for the beginning part here. I'll explain how that's going to work later, and we'll open up the feature when we're ready to take comments. Many people did submit questions in advance. We've answered most of those questions in a written document that will now be shared in the chat and will be attached to the agenda and the minutes for future reference. I'm going to start by taking a quick roll of the commissioner. Commissioner Dolores Canales. I'm actually just looking, Chair Carrillo, to make sure she's not in the, I do see that Commissioner Nong is in the participants. If you can promote her, please, Janae. So I don't see Commissioner Canales yet, but I do expect her to join us. Commissioner Dupuy is not present tonight. Commissioner Sean Garcia-Lays not present tonight. Commissioner Ishay Jackson not present tonight. Commissioner Don Meredith not present tonight. Commissioner Dominique Nong.
Present.
Thank you. And Commissioner Kanyamashiro, I believe, is also not present tonight. Just checking the list. And Chair Frankie Carrillo.
I'm here.
Great, and I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Very briefly, I'd like to introduce myself. As many of you know, I am in a very unique position here. In one hand, I'm the chair of the POC, which is a prestigious role that I take very seriously. And on the other hand, I was once one of those boys doing time in the California Youth Authority, not too far from where many of you live. I was at the California Youth Authority Youth Training School in Ontario from 1992 to 1996. Many of the things have changed since then, which is amazing. I am most grateful that we as a community at large have learned from our past mistakes, and we are aware that youth, no matter what they did, have the potential to learn from their mistakes and to be productive members of our society once they are released. I am very excited about not only hearing all the comments from the community, stakeholders, and learning about really how this is going to impact all of us. Obviously, as someone who has been in one of these institutions, the one thing that I can share before I move on with this is simply that back then I was a youth. Today I'm an adult like the rest of you. And I think that children are expecting us to be the adults that we can live up to and that they need us to be. And so with that, I'll close my introduction and move on. We are here tonight to discuss The best options for youth would have previously been sent to the State Department of Juvenile Justice. The decision about site selection and programming for youth on the secure track is delegated by the state to a subcommittee of the Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council called the RBG, Realignment Block Grant Subcommittee. We have 3 members of that subcommittee here tonight. Number 1 is Bakila Ochoa. Second would be Patricia Song, and finally Adam Bettino. As most of you know, Adam is also the Chief Deputy of Probation. In addition, we have 3 young adults here tonight who are skilled advocates and who have personal experience in the juvenile justice system. Mark, and I'm gonna ruin your name, Denari, representing the Youth Justice Coalition. Agustin Herrera, representing Arts for Healing and Justice Network. And Ezekiel Ishayama, representing the Anti-Racism Coalition, along with Layup. And he is also a commissioner for LA County's new Youth Commission. The POC does not have any formal authority over these issues. However, it is our role to encourage public input into all the decisions that involve probation and to serve as an arm of the Board of Supervisors and Probation Oversight. And now we will hear from members of the JJCC/JJRBG subcommittee on site selection progress and programming for youth dispositions to secure track and youth who will be returning from DJJ. Adam, Bakila, Patricia, you'll have the floor.
Thank you, Frankie. I don't want to spend too much time. I do want to hear from Bakila and Patricia as well. But just to set context, and I think Frankie, you did a great job with the alphabet soup from here on out. Let's go with subcommittee, just to make it easier on everybody else. So I am privileged to chair the subcommittee at this point. And I didn't introduce myself. I am the Chief Deputy Probation Officer, and I oversee administration and operational support for the department. Just really quickly, by way of context, and then we can get into a little bit more detail, hopefully. Just to be clear, you know, this is a statewide initiative. All counties are grappling with this same issue. So up and down the state, jurisdictions are determining the most suitable places for this population. These services have been realigned to counties, and so it's not uniquely an LA concern. We are still waiting to make a final decision on the permanent site. The subcommittee has made a series of recommendations, but we have not yet made a final decision. And I want to be clear that we have a really great opportunity to create something that's truly transformational for our youth. In fact, I was just reading a report on DJJ as it begins to close its doors and various concerns around staffing, conditions for the young people there. We really have a great opportunity to build something new and build something different for these young people who will be staying with us for some time. And I know that the subcommittee, I know that we take that responsibility. We do not take it lightly, and it's something that there's been a lot of work put in by the subcommittee up to this point. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. We continue to focus on services and programming. We are working through a transformative staffing model that's going to include some probation staff, but also folks with lived experience, credible messengers and mentors that can come in and serve our young people. We're going to leverage, existing partnerships with other county departments, mental health, education, and various others. So the subcommittee has reviewed the way we set out kind of some of the site selection was that we reviewed all the open housing camps. We did that in collaboration with Department of Public Works, and we hired an architect to go through those sites. We looked at all kinds of different factors when making our final recommendations, and the final recommendations from the subcommittee were Campus Kilpatrick, which is in Malibu, Camp Scott in Santa Clarita, and Camp Page or Aflabah in Laverne. And Dorothy Kirby Center will be the permanent site for our young women Right now, today, we have 14 young men who have been ordered to secure youth track, and no young women have yet been ordered. Any site that is selected will need to undergo some security enhancements. We're looking at all kinds of different options. So none of the sites that we have available now will kind of remain as is if they are selected for a permanent site. There will need to be some security enhancements made. And we can do these, we believe, without creating too carceral of an environment. We want to create something that is as home-like as possible. So we're looking at different advancements that will replace serpentine wire potentially, things like roller bars, anti-climbing mesh, and things like that. And then the real crux of safety and security, we believe, is an increased staffing ratio, as well as really enhanced programming and services for young people to ensure that we're keeping them as engaged as possible and that they're working toward a goal, whether that be educational or a vocational goal. And last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Patricia and Vakila is that, our subcommittee meetings are ongoing. Those are public meetings. We try to send, we cast a pretty wide net when we do send those invites out. So we invite folks to continue to participate there as well. And we're doing those sometimes twice a month, but at the very least, we're doing those meetings monthly. So that's kind of all I have by way of context, and I don't want to take too much time.
I think my colleague Vakila was going to start first.
Oh, so I guess I'll just thank you for that, Adam. I think that was a very comprehensive overview of our work. What I will say or will add is that the meetings, so I guess we were convened as a subcommittee, because I believe it was in January of last year, and we've been a public meeting since about April, so almost a full 10 months we've been open to public comment, feedback, and have been seriously considering those comments. We were supposed to have made a decision on a track facility and decided on programming staffing, I believe by July 1st of 2021. And so we're just about 6 months late in that process. So we're really, there's a lot more work to do as a subcommittee, but we have taken a lot of time to really consider as much feedback as possible in designating facility. We still have to discuss staffing and programming and, a host of other issues. We're charged with not just selecting a particular site for the secure track, but we're supposed to be developing a system of care throughout the county. And so I'm hoping that with feedback from the community, the POC, we can really dig into in 2022 what that system of care looks like throughout the county, of which the secure track is one part.
Right. I'll just add a few reflections about the process as well as the substance of our considerations and pending recommendations. One, that this really has been a collaborative process over the last year, not only in that the JJRBG became designated a public body so that our meetings were open, transparent, accountable to the public, that these town halls were organized by the Probation Oversight Commission. But even before the JJRBG was made a public body, there were months of regular meetings. And prior to that, there was about 6 months of work made by another committee called the DJJ Transition Committee. And through it all, there have been diverse voices from young people who had been through the system themselves, to probation partners, to our prosecutor partners, defenders. I myself am a juvenile defender and have represented young people for over 12 years and have done policy advocacy as well and have facilitated some of these spaces. So I think we incorporated a lot of expertise from lived experience to research and data, and those who work on the front lines of these systems. So I also agree with Bakila and want to underscore how urgent it is to make a decision here and designate a site because of all the preparation that needs to happen with any selected site. And I think that just brings me to my last comment, which is that underlying all our conversations are a set of strongly articulated values, from providing young people with what they need, and the wisdom around what they need has dramatically changed over the last 10 years even. And young people themselves can articulate quite well what the system has not provided them and what they need. And at the same time, there is a serious consideration, discussion, and definition of what safety and security means. And they are not at odds with the idea of providing young people with care and meeting their developmental needs. So when we look at the physical site and the physical features of any facility, we're also thinking about programming and staffing and how they all interact. And part of what is challenging about the indecision and sort of the delays here in designating a site is that we can't turn quickly enough to programming and staffing. And so I just want to appreciate all the work that's been done, the serious consideration around the physical site and the features of those sites. But then also want to say that the committee is really eager to be able to move forward and turn its attention to programming and staffing, which are as critical as the physical site and its physical nature to making sure that young people, the staff, and the community are safe and secure.
Thank you, Adam, Bakila, and Patricia. That was wonderful. We're moving on now to, we had three, but we're actually going to only introduce two. Mark didn't show up. Young people who have joined our panel tonight to discuss what young people need from a secure track facility and the types of programming that would be beneficial. Gentlemen, we look forward to hearing from you. Let's start with Ezekiel and then go to Agustin. Each of us will have approximately, I guess it's going to be 6 minutes each now to share your story with us. Ezekiel?
Thank you, and thank you for everybody and participant today. My name is Ezekiel Nishiyama. I am with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, also a part of the new LA County Youth Commission. I'm here today to just speak to my peers and young people who are still in the system and those that are going to the secure youth track facility. Just want to ground us at where we are and why we're here today. I think we started with SB 823 with the closure of the state facilities and DJJ, and that's what really initially started all this with the closure of DJJ and brought us here today. Now looking at with SB 823 and the closure of DJJ, it transferred the state jurisdiction to the county, and where we're at here in LA County is just trying to locate a facility for these young people that would have otherwise went through DJJ, but are now going to be housed in LA County and under our care. I myself was one of these young person that was sentenced to a secure youth track facility, went through DJJ, and recently came home 2 years ago after serving 4 years in these facilities. I'm here today to just speak to the fact that these young people are not what they're made out to be, or not the labels that are thrown on them by the system. Not the murderers, not the rapist, or not the assault with a deadly weapon. That's just what the system has thrown on them. That's not exactly who they are. These young people are more than serious juvenile offenders. These young people are the young people who need double the services, double the love, double the mentors, double the support from the community, double the guidance from the community, and double the program. I, as a young person, went through DJJ, went through the whole system at a very young age. At 15 years old, I was in the system and sentenced to juvenile life. Throughout my time in the system, um, there wasn't too much support except for the small support from the community, um, CBOs that were able to work with me, naming Anti-Recidivism Coalition, who really stuck with me and didn't look at me for the person I was in those juvenile hall clothes. They looked past that and looked at me for the young person I was and could really be the young person who was a poet, the young person who was able to be a firefighter. And that's where we're at today, just talking about the services and programs we need here in LA County. I think where we're at is just trying to locate a facility for young people, but these young people need much more than just a facility. These young people need the right staff around them, the right mentors, the right support, the right guidance, and someone who really knows what they've been through in the system, someone who's felt their pain, felt their struggles, and could see them for the young person that they really are, see them for the bright future that they have ahead of them. I think we look at our system as it failing our young people, but we need to also give our young people the strength and courage that this is not where they're going to be at for the rest of their life. These young people are going to make it out and go higher than the point they're at, which is very down below in the system. But that's not where we want to leave them at. We want to give them the right tools for success and really give them the strength and power to become the better version of themselves, to come home and reach higher opportunities and reach a higher version of themselves. I myself, as a young person, am I breaking up? Oh, okay. I myself, as a young person, went to DJJ and had the support from the community based CBOs. And it wasn't the support, it was just the chance they took on me that really helped me as a young person succeed. I came home 2 years ago and reached out to the Anti-Recidivism Coalition as soon as I came home. And it wasn't them reaching out to me exactly. I reached out to them because of the support they gave me and the consistency they showed me while I was in the system. That support followed me, and I carried it home and reached out to them and was able to, through the Anti-Racism Coalition, I was able to have the opportunity to give back to my community through my work and through my actions. And this is what we need to see here in LA County with the closure of DJJ. Yes, DJJ was a lot of horror stories and a lot of just not too many good stories coming out of there, but DJJ offered programs that really helped some of the young people, like construction programs, like the firefighting programs, like the fire camps, like the culinary arts. Those programs is what we're lacking here in LA County, as we see young people are left with no programs and services that are going to help them have a successful reentry in the community. And I just want to bring it back to really thinking about the overall place we're at here is just never judge these young people by what the labels are thrown on them. It's like judging a book by its covers. Many of these young people have a lot of pain and stories and struggles that we have no idea about, but we tend to judge these young people before we even look in towards them. Connect with these young people if you're able to. If you have the chance, or if you have any nearby services that you think could help these young people, reach out to them and really get to know them and sit down with them as an individual, and don't judge them, because none of us here in this world want to be judged by one another, but really just come to them as a person and give them the tools and services that you feel that would help them reach a better place. Because when we think about the young people in LA County, they are our future, and they will lead us to where we want to see ourselves here in LA County. Many of these young people most of these young people will come home. So I think it's up to us as adults to really give them the care and guidance and support that they need to come home as well individuals and come back and have a successful transition into the community. You know, really thankful for the chance that people took on me and gave me the support that I needed as a young person, because I was that same young person that we're talking about here today in this meeting that was on that path to a secure youth track facility. And I myself, being that young person, didn't know all these people were out here fighting for me or having a meeting, doing the day-to-day work for me. And I appreciate all the love and all the support and all the hard work that we do here in LA County for our young people. I think we're at a place where we are reaching somewhere and we are changing the system that we're in. So just really thankful for the opportunity to be speaking here today, and also want to open it up to my peer Augustine to speak and really share his opinion on secure youth track facilities.
I just want everybody to give applause for Ezekiel. That was a really good statement he made. Really did like that piece, Ezekiel. Like how you were talking right now, man. But if honestly, you basically touched everything I was touching on. I was gonna touch on. You know, like these kids, they all need second resources. You know, in my opinion, like when I was incarcerated, my biggest thing was how am I gonna like, how am I gonna like be when I get out? Because I've been like obviously I've been taking up my time. You know, I don't have no resources when I get out here, and my biggest priority is to like be able to make myself better. And I feel like a lot of these kids, like their biggest priority is like, you know, when they get out, you know, like it's at least for myself when I came out this time, you know, my biggest priority was just a resource of income. And I feel like that's why a lot of my peers that, you know, I was in camp with, you know, because I've never been at GJJ, but I've been threatened with it. I've been like, you know, obviously it's been mentioned while I've been in court, but I feel like, you know, my biggest thing was when I got out was just I wanted a resource when I got out. You know, I feel like most of these kids, when they get out, it's like, you know, like just spend for yourself or like think for yourself. And I feel like, you know, after coming from a place like, you know, like somewhere, their motivation of wanting to do better is like, you know, very little. You know, they came from like a, you know, like a prison like setting, and then they come out and they're told to like, you know, just forget about everything mentally and just move on forward, you know. And it's like they don't have that much time to be able to recover from everything, you know. And I feel like there's just not that much like space for a kid inside, you know, like that's incarcerated in any juvenile hall. I feel like there's just not much space for them to be able to feel like their voice is heard, or to feel like they're like allowed to speak up, you know, because I've seen kids run away from grievance box because they're labeled a snitch for trying to make a change inside the dorm, or you know, it's just simple things like that. You know, it's just like I feel like, you know, like yeah, like what Ezekiel was saying, you know, like we just need more resources for these kids instead of just trying to always assume that they're not trying to give their all or that they're just criminals, because I feel like that's the biggest thing, you know, like that every person does when they speak to one of these kids, that they hold their trust, or they just assume that they're still the same criminal that came in, you know, that they're not a human being. And truth be told, we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. It happens, you know, like, and especially like we shouldn't be held accountable for what we did young for the rest of our lives, you know, because obviously, like, you know, everyone has done stuff when they were kids. So I don't feel like there's room to judge on any minor that did anything while they were young, because you know you probably done something what they did, but just in a different perspective or a different scenario. But yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say.
Thank you, Agustin. We also, I just got noticed that Mark is in the house. So Mark, if you've logged on, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm not too sure exactly what the whole thing was, but I do know he said something about about getting out and stuff like that. I apologize for being late. They just literally let me know that the it was today, but they didn't tell me specifically exactly what time what it was. But I do know,
No
like
problem.
me personally, I have been incarcerated. I did like 7 years, and I did 5 years in the 180. And honestly, like I know for a fact when you get out, dude, they give you $200, dog, $200 fucking dollars to get where you need to go, right? Imagine having no social skills, right? For the most part, I mean, some people do. Obviously, when you're incarcerated, you do develop social skills. I mean, you know how to act, but you don't develop financial responsibility. You don't understand like about your finances. You don't understand how APRs work, how you don't get a loan, credit, etc., etc. But al fin, it's like you come out with $200, and depending on where you're at, it's like about $100 for your ticket. $100 to get where your destination is, and guess what? We live in a technology savvy world, and we need another $100 just for the phone itself, and like another 2 months for to actually have a phone. So now you're left on the street with no money at all because you had a ticket, fresh out jail, you got a ticket, and now you spend your money on a phone because you need a phone. You need a phone for e-lift. You need a phone for whatever email address you have, whatever the stuff you have, and it's kind of like, and like fortunately for me is I was lucky enough that I actually had a phone in prison, like illegally I purchased the phone illegally, right? But
Mark, Mark, you there?
Yes, you hear me?
Sorry for cutting you off. We want to focus on the
Staffing.
time you spent during the Youth Authority or the DJJ. If you can just focus on that, please, we would really appreciate that.
Yeah. The whole link up is that, like, essentially what I'm trying to say is that people in the DJJ, right, they should be allowed like certain certain things that would, because there's bad in the good and there's good in the bad. That's what I'm trying to say. And sometimes we need those things, right? Because we need those things because it's like I was lucky enough to parole, and I was already enrolled in college a year ahead. I literally got out and I was enrolled in college, which was huge. I had $16,000 lined up for financial aid due to the fact that I had these type of things. What I'm just saying is that maybe we need to take into consideration some sort of like approach in which, sure, they're serving time, but they need to have some sort of internet access. Like, it's
Thank you,
huge.
Mark. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Appreciate you. Wendy?
Okay, thank you very much. We are going to move into the public comment section, and I'm going to explain how that's going to work. And in the meantime, I'd like to give the commissioners an opportunity to begin the process of making public comment if they want to. I wanted to let the folks who are here know who's listening to your public comments. Commissioner Canales joined us right at the beginning of the meeting. We also have representatives from multiple supervisorial districts who've joined us. We have Mr. Bates from the Office of the Inspector General, Chief Bettino you heard from. We also have Chief Fletcher, who's over programs and operations for the probation department, and Chief Adolfo Gonzalez, who's here listening as well. And so thank you to all of you who participated on our panel. Thank you, Bakila, Patricia, Mark, Ezekiel, and Agustin for your comments. What we're going to do is turn on the raise your hand function and invite you to participate by raising your hand. If you're here on WebEx and you want to speak, please click on the little hand icon in the participant window and we'll put you on the list. You can see how to do it on the screen. Once your hand is shaded in gray, it's raised, and we'll call on you so you can unmute yourself. If you have any technical questions or you can't find the raise your hand button, you're welcome to send a chat to the host, and Janae, our host, will be also making a list of public comment. If you're calling in rather than joining on WebEx, you can raise your hand by dialing *3 on your phone, and that will raise your hand. And once you've given your public comment, if you dial *3 again, it will go down. All commenters will have 1 minute today, and that will be based on the number of commenters we have signed up. Although based on our attendance, we likely will not be able to get through all of the public comments. We are going to wrap things up around 7:45, so we'll take as many 1-minute comments as we can between now and then. If you don't have a chance to make your public comment today, you're welcome to do so by joining our next Probation Oversight Commission meeting next Thursday, January 13th at 9 a.m. Or you can join the next JJCC-JJ-RBG subcommittee meeting, which will be published shortly. As I mentioned at the beginning, there were many questions that came up before this meeting that have been answered on a document in writing. I'm going to ask Janae to actually put that in the chat again. She put it in the chat in the beginning, and you're welcome to take a look at those questions. Le damos la bienvenida a esta reunión a miembros de la comunidad quienes prefieren hacer sus comentarios en español. Les daremos el doble, 2 minutos en este caso, para nosotros proveer traducción al inglés, o usted puede proveer su propio traductor. Al iniciar su comentario, por favor, nomás avísenos que prefieres hacer su comentario en español. As you're making your comments, we ask you to follow a few guidelines, to introduce yourself with your name, to share your thoughts and be respectful of the time and allow as many people to speak as possible. I will cut you off right in a minute. We'll have a timer because we want to get through it. Please honor equity and participation, practice grace and openness with others. Jennifer is going to share a timer, and we will begin the process of calling on public commenters. But Frankie, first I'll ask you to ask your colleagues if they'd like to make a comment.
Thank you, Wendy. Commissioner Nung, like to share something?
Thank you. I actually just want to take a moment to thank everyone, both the panelists and broader members of the public, for joining today. You know, we're talking about today and what we've been talking about for long and arguably far too long. It's a really, really difficult issue. And it's one that's very personal and it's very emotional for many people. And it's an issue that is something that modern society has always grappled with, which is how we keep our communities healthy and safe. And we're here today because our efforts to achieve public safety through criminalization and incarceration have failed. You know, and it's said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And so our elected representatives at the state and local level have bravely chosen to do something different, to embrace a new youth development approach that science, that research, that experience has demonstrated will work. And so this shift really demands that all of us, and I really do mean all of us, take a hard look at our own values, our own assumptions, and our own biases. And I really hope that the comments and conversations today really reflect a willingness on all of our parts to take that hard look, because we really owe it to our young people to do just that. So thank you again. I look forward to hearing what folks have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Nung. Commissioner Canales?
Thank you so much. I would just like to thank all our presenters so far, and especially for the personal stories. I really appreciate. I'm so sorry. Hold on 1 minute. My question is for Mr. Bettino. While you have narrowed it down, you and your team, it's been narrowed down with the recommendations as to what facility sites might be used for the transfer of the 14 young men. I was wondering, because you mentioned security enhancements, roller bars, anti-climbing mesh, enhanced programming and things like this. So for the outer, you know, to put these things up, I'm thinking that could be another delay. And I'm wondering if you already at least have like a contractor in mind and have things lined up for an immediate go of preparation. And that's one of my questions. And then I have something else too.
Thanks, Commissioner Canales. Yes, we have done some analysis to determine exactly what it will take at some of these sites. So we have some cursory look in terms of hiring contractors and things like that. That has not occurred yet. We won't do that until we choose a permanent site, but we have an idea of what it will take to get us where we want to go.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that, because it's been a while that we've been going through this process. And then when I started hearing all that, I thought, oh, you know, there's more time there. And then another one of my question was, I was at one of the camps not too long ago, and I stopped and bought donuts for the staff and the youth. And I was wearing my badge. So other people started talking to me that are also employed, but the owner of the donut shop was really, you know, he started expressing to me his concerns as a property owner there and everything, saying, we are being told they're going to build a prison, you know, here at this site, and they're bringing murders. And I said, you know, I think there's some mix up in the messaging. Maybe we can work on having some more meetings and some more town halls. You know, as far as I know, they're not planning on building any prisons. And so, you know, it was just interesting to see the feedback and the fear of the communities and property owners and things like that. But another thing that I wanted to touch on, Ezekiel, you really mentioned this a lot, as well as Augustine, on how you were treated as a youth while incarcerated, and having those people that saw something in you and that really made a difference as in comparison to those that, you know, just look down on you, and how the youth really need that extra care, that extra to just look at youth with compassion. And I know oftentimes, what ends up happening is they go in a gang member and then they're treated and referred to as a gang member. And it's all it just seems to trickle down. So I really support you in all your suggestions about having those with direct impact, more involvement, more oversight. I look forward to one of our town halls actually consisting of the youth that are incarcerated and hearing their feedback too. And I'm just really honored to be a part of this process at this moment in time, where I honestly believe with all my heart there is going to be significant change. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Canales. Wendy, back to you.
Great, thank you. We're ready to go. We're going to start this process with Bruce Groff. Will be up first. And Bruce, we're going to unmute you. And once you begin speaking, Jennifer's going to hit start and your time will begin. And then when your minute is up, we will mute you again and appreciate your comments. So go ahead, Bruce Groff.
Thanks, Gwendolyn. Hi, Bruce Groff here, resident of Laverne. And as a matter of fact, I'm probably in the neighborhood closest to the two Laverne camps. And I have a couple of concerns. But before I get into those, thank you for all of the board members and committee members that are working on this very difficult issue. Certainly understand it, and I applaud the change to the system to give young people a chance and hopefully instruction and direction to get back to living a fruitful life and contribute to our great society. The concern I have, and I don't know if all of you or some of you, or I assume some of you at least have been through up to the Camp Page and sorry, I forgot the name of the other one. That's a very small road that's where all the county and city services are quite a distance away.
Sorry, your time is up. Thank you. You'll see 1 minute goes by quickly. Next up, we have Don Hutchinson. Don, we're going to unmute you and you can begin.
Hi, well, thank everybody for giving us their time. I also live up here in Laverne, and I don't know if anybody else has mentioned it, but it's a good 3 miles to the nearest public transportation. 3 miles. I'm a retired policeman. I used to go to Eastlake Juvenile Hall for court appearances with juvenile arrestees, and a very high percentage of the people, the parents, wouldn't show, causing the cases to be continued and whatnot. So I know for these young men that want to move forward, I know visiting with their families is very important, and it would be very difficult for them to do that if they don't have their own transportation. It's a good 3 miles from down to Foothill Boulevard up Stevens Ranch Road to the camp. So I hope all of you at least put that on your list of concerns, because it make it more difficult for these kids to visit their families. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Next up is Robin Carter. Robin, you are unmuted and ready to go.
Thank you. My name is Robin Carter. I'm City Councilwoman for the City of Laverne. Laverne is doing our fair share to support the county's juvenile justice system efforts through a range of rehabilitative services for families and youth provided by the Haynes family of programs, David and Margaret Youth and Family Services, as well as the existing operations at Camp Afferbaum and Page. One of your goals is to keep families involved with the juvenile, and 57% of the youth and their families come from the city of Los Angeles and west of Los Angeles. Having this facility on the far east in Laverne is not conducive to your goals. I have a report before me that is from the Los Angeles County DJJ transition team, and it states right here, the DJJ transition team concluded that, going along with your goals, that the facilities with the most promise include Camp Kilpatrick, Camp Gonzalez, and Dorothy Kirby.
Thank you. Next up is Pat Manjarres. Pat Manjarres, you're unmuted. Pat Manjarres. Okay, we're going to go on to Nikki Diekman, I believe it is. Nikki?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Nikki Diekman, and my husband and I here are residents of North Laverne. We have 3 kids in the area. I was listening to the youth talk, and no one is arguing with the value of having facilities that rehab the youth. I also agree with Robin that the location does not serve them. They talked about having resources after they get out. Laverne and the surrounding cities are not set up to employ them, serve them, and we don't have any resources set up to get them back into society. Just like Robin said, West LA has tons of facilities that would help them and keep them out of crime as they so want to be. Additionally, I have 3 young kids that walk down Stevens Ranch Road all the time, and they would be very scared to walk along that with families and criminals visiting up in that area.
Next up, we have Timothy Hepburn. Mayor Hepburn, you have 1 minute.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I just want to carry John and Robin Carter that the fact that we've been a generous community for over 60 plus years with Affaball Page, David and Margaret, and also Leroy Haynes. We have 3 or 4 opposition letters from the city of Claremont, from the city of San Dimas, from the city of Glendora soon, and also from the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments in opposition to these camps due to the fact that they are too far for the youth, for their families, and that we should be focusing on Barry J. Nydorf or Challenger up in Lancaster. We are a very generous community and have been for many, many years. And I think that the commission needs to readjust their thoughts and put these youth into facilities where the families are. And thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, we have Nicole Brown. Nicole, you're unmuted.
Good evening, everyone. Nicole Brown with the Urban Peace Institute and the Los Angeles Youth Uprising Coalition. I just first want to thank all the work that everyone's put into this, and I echo the sentiments that it's gone on for way too long. I also just want to thank Ezekiel and Augustine for their testimonies and say that I had the pleasure of working with young people who themselves have gone to DJJ every day. And when we believe in their best, they give us their best every day and are amazing and continue to inspire me. So I say that to the folks who are concerned. I want to express concern. I just want to really undermine that the permanent SYTF cannot be Barry J. And I say this because it continues to creep up in conversations. That would be incredibly traumatic and should not go forward. And I think transportation is a fair concern and that the JJRBG needs to figure this out because that will be a situation no matter what camp is chosen. Thank you.
Next up, we have Amanda Lee. Amanda, you're unmuted. You can begin.
So I'm also a resident actually of the city of San Dimas. And my concern is just more of, I really haven't heard too much about this. And recently, the only thing that I've been hearing is from residents who did echo, I believe one of the council members stated, talking with the donut store owner, oh, they're moving murderers into our city and they're not going to do anything. They're going to get loose and they're going to come into our backyards and they're going to hurt us. And I really do think that people are not quite understanding what's actually happening. And there's a lot of misinformation around this. So my request as a resident, not just for Laverne, as you can see, there's a lot of residents here today concerned about that particular camp, but for all residents, just to either share the links or the information where we can read up on what is actually happening, what's going to change, and how it will affect the surrounding communities. Thank you.
And we'll put the link to that document in the chat again later so you all can have access to it, and it will be on the permanent version of the agenda and the minutes. That's the answers to the questions that were submitted before. Next up, we have Isabel Huber. Isabel, you are unmuted. You can begin.
Thank you, Ms. Julian, and thank you to the 3 gentlemen, Ezekiel, Augustine, and Mark. You're absolutely right. You have every right, and the men that are incarcerated have every right to have double the support services. And so this is not about biases. I personally work as an educational court appointed surrogate. I have adopted 2 at-risk kids. I work at a high school, and continuation high school. But I personally have had my house broken into in North Laverne, as well as a few of my neighbors. And I am concerned about the extra flow of traffic and visitors in the neighborhood. It's not a bias, it's a fact. And I know that it was said by Mr. Ms. Song and Mr. Bentino that this was a collaborative effort, but we never heard about it until last month.
Thank you. Next up, we have Danita Beauchamp. Danita, you're unmuted and you can begin.
Good evening. I was a previous juvenile detainee. I did time in 1984, 1985 at Los Padrinos Juvenile Detention Center. And what worked then, I think, could still work now under the correct pretenses, was that they scared you straight. The County Board of Supervisors acknowledged self-isolation and loneliness as a mental health issue. And being in a jail cell at 14 years old, away from my family, away from my friends, was an extremely traumatic experience. And that alone made me decide that this is not the life that I want to live. And I made a conscious decision to do whatever it took to make my life better, and that I would never return to a place such as that. The offenders that are going to be sent to these camps are repeat offenders. They're violent offenders. These aren't juvenile level 1 people. We need to take this seriously, and it will affect our personal safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Masis Hagobian. Masis, you are unmuted. You can go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Masis Hagobian, Intergovernmental Relations for the City of Santa Clarita. On behalf of the City of Santa Clarita, I want to express our support that the population formerly under the DJJ should be placed in the most comprehensive, modern, and secure youth facility that will give the youth the best chance to adequately rehabilitate, which is why for nearly 1 year now we have supported Campus Kilpatrick to be designated as the permanent secure youth treatment facility. Campus Kilpatrick has been described in several studies, including the Youth Justice Reimagined Report, as a modern junior college campus with ample recreational opportunities and vocational training programs. Furthermore, testimonies that we've heard by former DJJ youth, including the gentleman tonight, and also cited in the Youth Justice Reimagined Report, indicate that many of the youth within the DJJ population have experienced the greatest level of trauma and abuse, which requires a secure facility with therapeutic environment to promote a non-institutionalized setting, which again reemphasizes the need for Campus Kilpatrick. Thank you.
Next up, we have Edine Madrid. Edine, you are unmuted. You can begin.
Hi, good evening. Can you guys hear me? So
we can.
Real quick, I'm the second person in my family that's been tried as an adult, and I'm a repeat violent offender. I committed a lot of crimes, and at the age of 16, I was drastically just taken away from my family, and I spent 14 years of my life in prison for a crime that today I would have got 2 years. And that's mind-blowing that our kids are still going through this and that we don't care and that we're playing hot potato with our kids. And it sucks because we all have kids. We all know of kids, and we know that kids do stuff that eventually they're going to regret, like I did. And today, after doing all that time, I'm not what these people, this narrative that we're violent have said I am. I'm not. I'm a full-time student. I have a job. I contribute to my community, and I'm a member of my community, something that many would have never thought.
Thank you, Edine. Next is a call-in user. It's call-in user number 16. Your number starts with 661263. You are unmuted. Can we see if we can hear you?
Yes, I'm Mary
Great.
Chester.
Okay, thank you.
And I reside in Santa Clarita, and I'm very familiar with Barry J. Nydorf Juvenile Hall, as I have been working there for times for students that we have in Santa Clarita that might have gotten into trouble and were going to court. And with some kids, I was able to make a deal that if you do better, I will be there to make sure the judge hears it. What I learned at Barry J. Nydorf was how supportive the staff there is. In the court, you've got juvenile court for immediate action if you need it. You've got a beautiful campus, And I mean, I think it even has a swimming pool. And I've been at court when it's been very, very hot. I know the need for a pool. But the Berry J is right there. It's freeway close. And I'm thinking you don't have to transport the students anywhere because they're right there on the campus.
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you. Next up, we have Pamela Anderson. Okay, I think Pamela has put her hand down. So we'll go with Sean Casares. Sean Casares. Okay, great. Sean, you're unmuted. You can begin.
All right, perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Probation Oversight Commission. My name is Sean Casares. I'm a concerned resident of San Dimas, California. Tonight, I comment to urge the Probation Oversight Commission to take camps Afflebaugh Page and Glen Rocky off the list of potential sites to house violent juvenile offenders. Given the concern of security infrastructure and the proximity to residential and to schools, Allen Avenue and Oak Mesa, I strongly urge these camps be taken off. To address the comments of a fellow San Dimas resident, this concern is not misinformation when Adam Patino mentioned the high-level offenders that will be potentially placed in these camps. With that said, I urge the Commission to move forward and take camps Afflebaugh Page and Glen Rocky off the potential lists. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is a call-in user number 43. Your number starts with 626-616. We're going to unmute you and see if we can hear you.
And after this call-in user, Wendy, we could go back to Pam. She's still
I
in the queue.
apologize for that. Okay, thank you. So we'll go call-in user number 43, 626-616. You're unmuted. Can we hear you?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Great. Okay, yes, we'll start your time.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, my name is Sean Kramer. I'm in Santa Clarita. And I've just wanted to echo some of the other responses here. With Santa Clarita, we're a very tight-knit community. The placement of this facility at Camp Scott, it's on a very narrow road. It's right across the street from residential houses. There's 2 elementary schools very close by. I just don't think it's the right place to put violent offenders. And on top of that, too, these are not, juveniles. These are people up to adulthood. And I don't think it's the right spot for that. I've heard some mention of Kilpatrick, some other facilities in Lancaster, and I think those might be more appropriate than where the placement of this is being considered at this point. And on top of that, too, the recent rain we had, I know that they actually had to close some of the roads going in, going out of that area. So that's also a consideration that we need.
Thank you. We'll go back to Pam now. I apologize for cutting you off. You dropped off my list, but that was my fault.
Sorry. This is Pamela Anderson. I'm
great.
I'm a resident of Laverne. I live in a community that I think is very close to the proposed camp. I heard earlier that although this has been talked about for many, many months, and that the security measures still have not been decided upon, which is a little bit frustrating, and as well, something else that has been mentioned, the fact that it has been discussed in public for many, many months. I think that it already was mentioned, the fact that the city of Laverne only learned about it about a month ago. So I don't know where the disconnect is. However, I think being very public and involving a community where you're considering a camp like this is really important, and it seems a little bit hidden, the fact that it has been talked about for almost a year, 9 months, and we were not consulted, or it was not discussed with our council, or at least brought to the public, is a big oversight and something that needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Joe Gabaldon. Joe, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Joe Gabaldon. I live in Laverne. While your goal to create a facility and program whereby the primary objective is to provide an environment that improves the chances to reduce recidivism is clear, it's unclear where the interest of the host community sits. I congratulate all those who have had positive outcomes in the program, yet I question why they are being paraded in front of us tonight when nobody disputes the need for these facilities and services, and where everyone hopes for the positive outcomes of those who look for a real second chance. What is being questioned is the location and the considerations that are put into the eventual site. I'd ask a couple things in follow-up to the speaker just before me about who on this committee sits in the city that will eventually host these facilities as a representative of that city. What are the considerations and criteria that have been used where the safety considerations of the residents of the host city have sit, and do they sit above?
Thank you. That's your time. Next, we're going to go to Oscar Canales. Oscar, I now can't see you on my list. Janae, can you let me know when Oscar is unmuted?
Will do. I'm searching for him now. Okay, Oscar, you're unmuted.
Hello. Hi, my name is Oscar Canales. I'm a youth advocate with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. Thank you for having me. I spent time in Camp Afro-Ball in the city of Laverne in the year March 2013. I was 13 years old. There, it is much more closer and accessible to the families than to be able to have to visit their loved ones in Stockton, California, where I was sent because of the 6-hour drive. I wasn't able to see my family until I was sent to Ventura, which is still a distance from Los Angeles. Prior to being sentenced to the Division of Juvenile Justice, I was able to be part of the Freedom School program in Camp Afro-Ball that is through the Children Defense Fund, which is non-probation. And that beautiful program consists of 1 week, which is a program that encourages youth to engage in activities that are offered in regular programming. Throughout my whole time in being in Camp Afro-Ball, we were able to be what we are, and that is children. There was also 707B offenses, which is high commitment offenses. There with me, there was a couple of them actually. We were able to.
That's your time. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Jack, and I apologize if I don't say this name correctly. Mercica. Janae, let me know when Jack is unmuted.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mercika is correct. Thank you very much for that. No, my only question is, and I don't know if I can get answers other than making comments. I understand that you keep referring to these juveniles or youth, but I understand that that age goes to 29. And customarily, because I was a lay minister up there at Camp Glenrothy for a number of years, and the age there was maximum age was 18, not 29. So I'm concerned about the misinformation of calling them juveniles and youth, and they're not really youth. So those are the only comments I wanted to make. And if I can get some clarification on that, I would appreciate it.
That is actually one of the specific questions that's answered on the document that we'll put in the chat, so you and everyone else can see the answer to it. The next person will be Lisa Alimena. Lisa Alimena, that's with an A, Janae.
Lisa, you're unmuted.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. I am actually a concerned citizen of San Dimas.
Lisa, we can hear you, but just barely. Is there any way, can we restart the timer,
Can
Jennifer?
you hear me okay better now?
That's better. That's better. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm a concerned citizen of San Dimas. I'm kind of echoing what a lot of the previous people have said. I don't feel that this has been brought to our attention with enough time for enough of the local community to address our concerns. Of course, we want the youth to have ample opportunity to do better and be given these opportunities. However, the Laverne facility, the population density is 3,600 per square mile. At Kilpatrick, it's 6 square. 0.4 miles.
Lisa, we've lost your audio again.
Sorry?
We've lost your audio again.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry, it's 0.4 miles from the nearest residency in Laverne, 2.9 miles to the nearest school, 0.4 miles to the nearest park, 0.6 miles to the nearest business. I don't feel that that has been taken into consideration. Yes, we hope that all the juveniles, which to my understanding go up to.
Thank you. That's your time. Next up, we have Lily Brainard. Lily, you're unmuted.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the community member. Very a lot of information to analyze actually before make the decision. I think it's just too rush. I'm citizen of Laverne, and then actually up to 10 media report this campaign what's going to happen in the future after the town hall in Mesa. So up to 10 media, and then all is opposition because they will mention, oh, Laverne is a tiny city who is good for senior retirement and for school the kids to grow up, but we definitely just not a good place to fit them. So I want to emphasize, they are not kids. They're 18 to 25 years old young men. I think if the juvenile really need the support, the inside the really young, the real juvenile, how could they get support? Will they be attacked or safe? Will they be safe? It's a big concern. Please, just not a good place here.
Thank you. Next up, we have Monique Yatim. Monique, you're unmuted.
Yes, I just know I have a minute, so basically want to echo what everybody else is saying. I am a concern of Laverne, and I on different levels. I know probation fairly well, and I'm letting you know right now. And a lot of people know they want to sugarcoat it, but they can't even manage properly the minors that are up there right now. They have escaped. They've had major disturbances, and they're not even able to take care of who they have there. I am absolutely 100%, and most of the community is behind these young men restarting your life. But if you're serious about restarting your life, you're going to do it anywhere. And we are, like the mayor has already said, we already host 2 large facilities and all the problems that come with it. It's time for other folks to help out other parts of the community. We do wish all these young men well. We hope that, again, if you're serious about rehabilitating, you'll do it anywhere. Doesn't have to be here in Laverne.
We have Wendy Lau.
My name is Wendy.
You're unmuted.
My name is Wendy Lau, and I'm a resident of Laverne, as well as a member of our city council. And I just wanted to take a moment to refocus this discussion to what many of the panelists alluded to in their comments and presentations, which is provision of the best services to allow for the rehabilitation of these youth. And a big part of that means selecting a site that is most appropriate for their rehabilitation and growth. This includes the security of the site, proximity to the youth's family and support networks, as well as the necessary services and resources. The sites in Laverne do not best serve these goals enumerated by the DJJ. And so I would seriously ask this commission to reevaluate, look at the choices that they are proposing, and really take into consideration, if you are trying to meet the goals that you are intent on, understand that we are in support of rehabilitation, but we don't believe that these sites are the appropriate place for that to take place.
Thank you. Next up, we have Olivia Shields. Olivia, you're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, I'm Olivia Shields with the Urban Peace Institute and Los Angeles Youth Uprising Coalition. I wanted to firstly thank Ezekiel and Augustine for their testimonies and for reminding us that we owe young people the programming, mentorship, and services they need to thrive and achieve their goals. I want to echo what my colleague Nicole said. I consistently work with youth who've gone to DJJ, and they're some of the most powerful leaders I've ever met. And to address some of the concerns that were voiced, we truly do fail harm parties, also referred to as victims and survivors, when we perpetuate a culture of dehumanizing and demonizing young people, and based on these comments, also their loved ones. That's only led to more trauma and recidivism. So simply put, if you want less harm, less crime, invest in these youth who've been deprived of the resources and opportunities that would have given them a chance to succeed. It's time to move forward with Care First, with Youth Justice Reimagined, and creating a safer, kinder, healthier future for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Crosby. Rick, you're unmuted. You can begin.
Thank you so much. I'm a resident of Laverne and on the Laverne City Council, and I agree with all the other council members that spoke tonight, Councilmember Lau, Councilmember Carter, and Mayor Hepburn, that Laverne is disproportionately already been affected and giving our help to our youth. We believe in our youth and we believe in rehabilitation, but we also know that where these residents come from and that we are on the far east end of the county. I want to ask the commissioners, is any one of you live here on the east end of the county as well, and so that you would be representing us on that commission. We feel that Alpha Page has done an excellent job with the programs that they have had, but having more severe youth there, that will make those programs not be working as well as they've already done. So we appreciate all of what you've done, but we believe that this is not the right choice. FL Page is not the right choice for this to have.
You. And in fact, there is a member of the Probation Oversight Commission, Don Meredith, who's unfortunately not with us today as he got stuck overseas and is sorry not to be here, but who represents both District 5 and lives in the east part of the county. And he will certainly be watching the video of this meeting. Next up, we have Leah Gasordas. Leah, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm the Youth Justice Policy Lead with UCLA School of Law's Criminal Justice Program. I'm also a current resident of Council District number 5. I grew up in San Dimas. And I want to thank the board members, the JJRBG members, and the POC Commission for providing comprehensive materials and responses to the community's questions and concerns. This has been a thorough and exhaustive process, and I really want to recognize and acknowledge that. I also want to lift up what Ezekiel, Augustine, and Mark emphasized in their comments, that it was programming, mentorship, and supportive adults that believed in their possibility that allowed them to rehabilitate. And so that's what I want to just say to the community that's calling in overwhelmingly tonight. We need to work hard, pick a location, and then create the services and the supports that these young people need to thrive and to move forward with their lives. Thank you.
Next up, we have Adriana Quinones.
Good evening.
You're
Hello.
unmuted.
Can you hear me? Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Adriana Quinones, a resident of Hacienda Heights, and I'm just concerned that there has not been enough community outreach. Laverne is not a location where you can house violent young people. I believe in rehabilitation. I grew up in Boyle Heights. I'm familiar with probation. This is not the place for it. We need to find better places like the Challenger facility in Lancaster. We also have to ensure that we change the mentality. We have to make sure that we have better education for the kids, work with local schools, elected officials, law enforcement, community to find solutions. I also believe that we have to change the philosophy of accountability. Thank you.
Next up, we have A. Gilbert Ivy. Janae, it looks like that line is still muted. A. Gilbert Ivy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think my system is frozen on my end. Let me see if Jennifer can unmute them.
There we go. A. Gilbert Ivy, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You're ready to go.
Thank you. I just want to say I agree with all of the people from our city of Laverne, the mayor and his council people, with the fact that I don't believe that this was sufficiently vetted as an issue for the Alpha Page camp for rehabilitation. I do agree with transformative issues for our youth and young adults, absolutely. But I think the subject today is dealing with the placement of that facility. And that facility needs to be placed, I believe, in the location outside of the east side of this county, perhaps even the Barry J facility. I do believe that we need to have more neighborhood discussions on this, because I don't believe that anyone ever came to North Laverne to discuss what was going to be placed just up the street from my house, Robin Carter's house, and even closer to Mayor Tim Hepburn's house. So again, support the transformative process, but do not agree that this has been sufficiently vetted, and would like this to come forward and take your time with more review.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulties on the back end here. Can we restart the timer? And we'll go next to Katie Stidham. Janae, are you able to unmute Katie Stidham?
Chatting with Janae on the back end, it looks like her system is frozen.
I'm clicking on her. Katie, can you start talking? Okay, there you go.
And
you're
ready to go.
Okay. Yes. I just wanted to talk about the location in Laverne, and I'm not sure if any of you have visited that area, but it's not just the residents of Laverne that are at risk, if that's what the right word is, but it is, the hiking trail is literally 10 feet from the outside of those camps. The trails lead into people's back homes. They lead directly to Oak Mesa Elementary School. It leads to numerous parks. The only trails to get out of there, if there was an escapee, is to Claremont, to Laverne in backyards, which have canyon backyards. And then you have the unsuspecting people, the thousands of people that hike those trails on a daily basis, single women. You have the track teams. You have the Boy Scouts who do their Eagle Scout awards up there. You have the equestrian trail up there, unsuspecting families putting their families on horsebacks. You have Marshall Canyon Golf Course where the high school's kids go up there and do their practice. It's not the right location.
That's your time. Next up, we have call-in user number 31. Your number starts with 626-676. Looks like, Janae, that it's just going slowly, maybe on your end, to unmute folks.
Can you hear me, Wendy?
I can.
Okay, I'm looking for the screens are just not aligning. Sorry about that.
Patience. That many members of the Oversight Committee, both at Camps Page and Afflerbach and Camp Rocky, which is not under consideration in this decision, and as well members of the JJCC, JJRBG subcommittee have visited not just those camps but other facilities in the East Camp area, as well as other camps that were under consideration. And I know that Supervisor Barger was recently at Camps Page and Afflerbach as well. Adam, were there any questions that you heard that you wanted to address while we're waiting for Janae to get her system back running?
Just something that's come up several times in conversation around the types of facilities. So I just want to clarify, David and Margaret, which used to house both probation and DCFS youth, we used to refer to as group homes, as well as Leroy Haynes. Those are both open facilities. This is not an open facility. This will be a locked, secure facility. That's the one that kind of keeps popping up throughout these conversations. I just want to clarify that for folks.
Thank you. That actually reminded me, another one of the questions that's specifically answered on the document that we provided is about the question about the ages of the young people. So there has been a lot of back and forth about that. And these are all young people, as is described in that document, who were charged and dispositioned under the juvenile system, and able to, so that means that the crime that with which they are charged, they committed when they were under 18. So some of them grow older than 18 while they're still in the system, some while awaiting trial, some after trial, but all were juveniles, under 18 minors when they committed the original crime. I think we are set. Adam, were you going to say something about that?
Just the other thing that I forgot to mention earlier is around there's the questions that have been answered that are being shared in the chat. We are also creating a frequently asked questions link on our website, on our public facing website. It's going to have a lot of documents that we've drafted and submitted for various reasons, as well as some frequently asked questions. So that's another place to engage when folks do have questions, and we should have that up and launched in a couple of days.
Great, thank you. I think we have Katie Stidham now available to speak. Oh, actually, we're moving on. Katie just spoke. We're moving on to call-in user number 31, Jennifer, which is 626676.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Mark Lambert, I'm a resident of North Laverne. And I'd like to echo the points a lot of other people have already made. I'm 100% supportive of the program and the initiative. It's the location. And I'm not going to labor the point about public safety, but what I'm going to point out is the actual physical location of the facility. You go through over 2,500 residential area. There's obviously the lack of transportation and difficult access with public transport, but the actual road going to the facility is tiny. It's also in a fire risk area. Any person that could look at Google Maps could very quickly look at other camp locations or other facilities that are being proposed and see they are much better served by public transport and much safer than the facility which is in the North Burn area. Obviously, public safety of the local citizens as well, and I've got father of two. So thank you very much for your time.
So next up, we have Jana Miranda. Jana, you're unmuted.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. I am a teacher and mother in Laverne, and I've actually had the honor and pleasure of working with young boys from Leroy Haynes. And I completely believe in rehabilitation and the need for some change. Like many have stated, that is not the question that's being asked here. The problem is the location. And I do not believe that this location serves anybody well. Like it's been said, we have elementary schools very close by, kids that walk to and from school, and this is not the correct location for that to be happening. I appreciate Ezekiel sharing and Augustine their stories, and I'm thrilled that things have changed for them and they've been able to make great choices and turn things around. This is not the location for that to happen.
Next up, we have Pam Berry. Pam, you're unmuted. You can begin.
Thank you. I'm Pam Berry, resident of Laverne. Thank you for listening. I oppose using AfroBob Page and support Challenger, Nydorf, and Kilpatrick due to the distance and safety. Laverne sites do not meet your goals. My sister lived with us in North Laverne for 8 months. The closest transportation is a bus stop 3.5 miles away downhill, which means you have to walk back uphill if you're coming this way. She couldn't get to LA for appointments and finally moved back. It's too distant. Transportation difficulties would severely limit family and support services. Page AfroBob is a high fire risk. Only one road.
Put the dog in, please.
Pardon? I'll go ahead. I don't know what you said. Page AfroBob is a high fire risk. Only one road out for at least a mile, surrounded by brush in a wildfire area. Past evacuations had detainees running down the road with both sides aflame. Residents can't get fire insurance, so if fire is a high risk, it's a risk to the camps for use surrounded by brush.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Sarah Javahari.
Sarah, hi,
Sarah,
my name is
you're
Sarah.
unmuted.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Javahari. I've spoken at these meetings a couple of times before. I'm a resident of Laverne. I'm also a juvenile delinquency attorney, but I just have some specific questions. It seems like there's a very big disconnect between all of these communities and probation. These kids really need some buy-in from whatever community is decided upon. Are there any plans on probation's part to really get these communities to buy in so that we can get volunteers out to these sites or not? And is that the ability to do so a consideration of probation? Another one is what we've been doing at camps is not working for these kids who are going to secure track or else they wouldn't be going there. Is access to new and innovative programming a selection criteria for this program? The last one is for Laverne. We live closer to San Bernardino than LA County. Are there plans to partner with San Bernardino or Riverside County to provide services and possibly reentry and jobs for these youth? And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Otto Leon. Otto, you're unmuted. Yes.
Okay. My name is Otto Leon. I'm a resident of Laverne. Well, the state of California Department of Juvenile Justice decided to phase out and close DJJ by the state, so the counties become responsible for housing these youth. But who knows what else can decide later? We have no assurance on the number of juveniles that will be kept over time in the detention camp. A new decision can be made where they can start bringing either a different level of offenders or a large number of them. Specifically, in our case, in Laverne, the location of this camp is very, very close, only a third of a mile from the first community, which is surrounded by many more. You know, when this camp was built, there wasn't any residential area around it for miles. Today is a very different scenario. In this detention center, the security staff will be no armed. And the security they will put is to have more and better fences only.
That's your time. We still have a number of folks who are signed up to give public comment, and we have reached the end of the time of the meeting, but we have, I know that Chair Carrillo is willing to stay on a little bit longer, as am I, and so we'll go on to a few, although I wanted to take a moment just to apologize for failing to acknowledge our newest commissioner, Sam Lewis, who is in attendance today, who also, who represents District 3, but also lives in District 5. So, Frankie, if you wanted to just make some closing comments and invite Sam to comment, and then we can go back to public comment once that's complete.
Thank you, Wendy. You know, listening to everyone speak, obviously it's a reminder, you know, in going into this, it was very clear that this is a very hard decision. There are people on the advocate side who are really focusing on less about the location, more about the programming. And obviously tonight we have residents who are concerned, who are supportive of the rehabilitation efforts, but are obviously concerned about the site. You know, I think it's been made very clear that things that, you know, the train is in motion here, and we have to work together to make this happen. I really want to thank everyone for being very respectful. Thank you for your time. And we will definitely keep everyone abreast of what's going on. Be patient with us, be patient with the process. We understand that at the end of the day, the youth need to be housed somewhere. And at this juncture, we are obviously taking in everyone's consideration, everyone's points of views. But as we move forward, there has to be a decision made. And we will keep everyone abreast of what's going on. With that said, Commissioner Sam Lewis, forgive us for not acknowledging you earlier. If you'd like to share some thoughts, comments, please do so.
Thank you, Commissioner. So first, thank you everyone for your comments, and thank you for joining. I want to share real quick. I've been going into Barry J. Nightoff now for almost 10 years. I'm proud to say a number of young people and people that I mentor will be in a secure track unit that I'm about to talk about, that are now college graduates, that are not here to talk about where their success came from. What I've heard both in this hearing and in the Santa Clarita hearing that I was in person is, we support it, but not in my backyard, over and over and over again. There's an African proverb that's etched into my memory forever that says it takes an entire village to raise a child. I see our villages across this county failing our children. These are not kids that are born bad. I've met with so many of these kids that have been born into bad circumstances and made bad choices. And I've heard them called violent offenders. I've heard them called many different things. I was one of these kids. I've heard disparaging remarks about families that they're criminals in both this hearing and the previous hearing that we were in person. In my family, I'm the only person that went to prison. My mother is a registered nurse. She's a homeowner. My sisters work for the County of Los Angeles in the district attorney office for almost 30 years. My younger sister works for the county. My entire family has never been in any type of legal trouble. I was the only one. So when they came to visit me in these facilities, would you describe them as bad people that would bring crime to your communities? I say this because this is the label that we're putting on families that we don't even know. And I'm saying this when I say we, I'm a community member. I live in Santa Clarita. I live in this house I own. My 2.5-year-old grandson is in the room next to me. I'm saddened at the fact that so many people say that they support rehabilitation, but say not in my backyard. If you had a moment to meet some of these young people and they're juveniles when they received their conviction or when they committed their commitment offense, and you heard some of the things that they went through and they just wanted a decent chance just to live a life, a first chance. We talk about giving second chances. Most of the kids that I've worked with never had a first chance. And what I've heard in these comments is like, let's just throw them away. We believe in rehabilitation, just not here. At some point, as a community, we have to start saying, you know what, I want to invest in these kids. I want to, and they're kids when they go in. And I can tell you some amazing stories. I got college graduates just popping out of my head right now. Kid that just graduated from Cal State Poly, I started mentoring him. Kids that are now in living wage jobs because, and they're adults now, because when I met them, they may have been 16, 10 years ago, now they're 26. What I'm saying is this, we invested in them as advocates, as community-based organizations. If it was your son or your daughter that had found themselves in these circumstances, would you give up on them and say, I don't want them near me, or I don't want them in my community? Or would you say, I want to find a way to fight to bring my son or daughter home and support them to help them become the best version of themselves? You see, as I approach these hearings and the work that we do, I look at every one of these young people as potentially one of my own kids. I have 4 daughters. One passed away from sickle cell. All of my daughters have gone to college, and the youngest is about to graduate. I want them involved with going in and being able to teach too. Do I fear for them? No, because I honestly believe if you take the chance on these kids, as I've done, and get to know them, you'll realize that in a community, to do right, to truly do right, is to support the most vulnerable. And the most vulnerable in our communities are our children. So I'd really like for everyone that's listening that's been in attendance, especially in my city of Santa Clarita, take into consideration and stop for a minute and say, what do I really want my community to look like 5, 10 years from now? I'd like to see no juvenile halls, which means we need to invest in our youth, both the ones that are incarcerated and the ones that are at promise but have no hope for a future. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, everyone. If you ever have an opportunity or would like to, when these COVID restrictions pass, I would love to invite you to come in with me as a community-based provider and meet some of these young people, and you'll see how amazing they are, and you'll realize that they never had the first chance that so many of us want for just our own children. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Adam, do you have any concluding remarks you would like to make?
Please don't make me follow Commissioner Lewis there.
Agreed.
I really, really appreciate those comments. Close this out. And again, we are here to answer as many questions as we possibly can. I will be wherever I need to be to answer these questions. These are really, these are challenging decisions. We understand that there's sacrifice involved. And you know, we wouldn't, reform causes that, right? Reform kind of causes sacrifice. There's a little bit of a risk involved, and we understand that. We're doing everything that we possibly can to make the best decision. We need to go quickly, but we cannot rush because this is a very important decision. And so the subcommittee is taking this very seriously. We're being maybe too deliberate for some folks, but we definitely want to get this right. So thanks everybody for being here. Really appreciate the ongoing engagement.
Thank you, Commissioner. Really appreciate that, Nicole. Introducing you at the beginning. Frankie, it is 7:37. Do you want to pick a number of how many more minutes we're going to go here, and I'll read off that many names.
Sure. So it's 7:38. Maybe I don't mind going until 8 o'clock, but if you think, because at this point now it's 20 minutes.
That sounds good. All right. So we've got 20 names that I will read. If you hear your name, you're going to have a chance to speak tonight. If not, we invite you to please submit written comment to info@poc.lacounty.gov. We'll start with Brad Butcher, Tracy Gonzalez, Chris Garcia, Stephen Ward, Kent Mendoza, Jason Simison, Willie Valenzuela, Thomas Allison, Angela Avalos, Robin Walker, Dan Gomez, Krista Newble, Dale Coleman, and I believe that was 20. So let's start with, what did I say? Brad Butcher. You've got a minute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. What I've been hearing is a second chance, or really even a first chance. I think what Sam Lewis said was very eloquent. Thank you. What I also hear is proximity to support family, counselors. So I think those, it makes sense that those are at the top of the pecking order, if you would. I went through this, reviewed this list, and without any comment about any particular community, I don't know if it's an old dilapidated facility, but this Barry Needorf facility looks like it has a lot more classrooms, more proximity to vocational centers, colleges, better immediate proximity and transportation to large metropolitan areas. So I would think that's what it's about. Maybe it needs to be a fancy facility, the Kilpatrick one. So that's all I have to say.
Next up is Tracy Gonzalez.
I'm a Laverne resident. What I want to say is that really what I've heard after hearing everything tonight, and on all of those of us that thought long and hard about this issue and have been researching it all, is that what we have is a lack of trust. Trust because the county is being disingenuous as far as the answers that you've written on your sheet about how this has been going on since March 2020, and we just found out about it. How are we supposed to trust you with these youth who we care about? So please don't make us out to be the bad guys when many of us serve our communities and have done so our whole lives. And we want to trust that they're going to be in the right hands, that you'll make the right decisions. But when you don't include all the partners and be collaborative about it and open and transparent, which you have not been because we just found out, we have a lack of trust. And we will continue to research and try and make our voices heard to make the right decisions for these youth and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris Garcia.
So
you can begin.
So what I'm hearing is every time the residents bring up a point about another facility being more appropriate or another facility being more secure or costing less money to rehabilitate the facility and make it suitable to house offenders who are at a higher risk, we're simply being dismissed as if we are some sort of horrible people that don't want these offenders in our backyard. That's not the case at all. We all agree that they need to be rehabilitated. We agree that being kicked out with only $200 to try and make your way in the world isn't fair, and that's no way to make a fresh start. But the documents from the Sheriff's Department make it clear that other sites are more suitable. The document that you provided the link for has colors, but has no numbers behind the colors to show which sites are more suitable or not, and why certain decisions are being made about which site is more expensive or less expensive.
Thank you. That's your time. That document that's being referred to is the scorecard, and there's a link to it on the document that we provided. Thank you for bringing that up. Next up is Stephen Ward. Stephen, you're unmuted.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone's time this evening. I think I'm a Laverne resident, and I think as everyone discovers this process going on, there's a real concern and a fear of the NIMBYism that we all have, right? Of having folks. I was aware when I purchased my home that the camps were up there. I am very supportive of the mission. I really think Commissioner Lewis's comments were really well taken. I was going to spend my time talking about what other Laverne residents have said about location, proximity to public transportation, et cetera. But I just actually have a question, and I posted this in the chat as well, that the document mentioned Kilpatrick as being a recommended site on an interim basis, and then Scott, Page, and Afflerbach as a permanent location. And I was just wondering why Kilpatrick was only being thought of as an interim location, because it seems to be, you know, the most magnificent site based on everything I've read and heard about Kilpatrick. So thank you for your time.
Next up is not you, Kent. Unmute Kent Mendoza.
Hello, can you hear me?
You're good to go. Yes.
Damn. 1 minute. I guess hello everybody. Good afternoon. I hope everybody's doing great. Thanks for being up so late already on this call. I just wanted to just reiterate what Sam talked about and just really thank the young people that shared their testimonies earlier today. You know, I just wanted to quickly share it in when I was in the compound at the age of 17, you know, I found myself in the darkest, the gloomiest moments in my life, to the point where I literally read the Bible from beginning to the end twice. That's how desperate I was, because I didn't even know what the heck was going on in my life. And I just say that to say that, you know, it really pushed me to do something that I never thought I was going to be able to do as a young kid. You know, it's just unthinkable, right? This is what young people are currently going through, you know, and just want to reiterate that the compound is not the best place. I know that there's a lot of misinformation out there, but just wanted to make it clear the compound is not a good suitable place for young people to do any sort of time in. And just wanted to thank again everybody for sharing.
And next up is Jason Simison. Jason, you're good to go.
All right, perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm a resident of Laverne, and I do echo the sentiments of our city council and residents, but I think one thing that hasn't been really expressed enough is the feasibility of the upgrades to Afflerbach Page. The facility is extremely outdated. It's in a high fire zone. It's in an environmentally sensitive area with minimal access. And I think that the construction costs using public funds would be much better used in a facility that is already at a level where we could take the funds for construction and upgrades that would be required at Afflerbach and put those into programs for our youth, for the rehabilitation and for the support of our youth. Our location is just not the right place. It's access-wise. And I think that both the initial construction and the long-term maintenance is going to be just not feasible monetarily.
Willie Valenzuela, you're up next. You're good to go.
Hi, how you doing? I'm a resident of Laverne, and I'm just calling because, you know,
I oppose the Afterball page camp being used as the facility of choice only due to the fact that it's not convenient for the residents here in Laverne. I mean, there's only one road that leads to the compound. I don't feel that that would do justice for the families visiting the 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 students there at Afterball page. Also, you know, where are these people going to get released as soon as they come out of Afterball page? There's residential areas all over. There's parks, there's schools in close proximity to this compound. Also, the rate of graduation there at Afterball page is only about 30%. So that's another concern that I have there at Afterball page.
Thank you. Next up, we have Thomas Allison. Thomas Allison, you're unmuted.
Hi, good evening. I'm a resident of Laverne, and pursuant to Welfare and Institution Code Section 202A and B, the primary foci of the juvenile justice system is public safety and rehabilitation of the youth. Considering the admitted funding limitations, could you please describe in detail and with particularity the resources and modifications, aside from fencing, that would go to ensuring there is not another escape from the camp in northern Laverne? And two, please describe in detail and with particularity the resources that will be provided to the city of Laverne and surrounding cities to ensure the availability of rehabilitative services for these youth offenders. Finally, it is a policy aim of the code that youth be kept in proximity to their homes and communities. What research has been done on the impact of a lack of proximity between the camps in Laverne and the youth offenders on their chances of rehabilitation? Thank you.
Next up, we have Angela Avalos. Angela, you can begin.
Hi, my name is Angela. I live here in North Laverne, close to the trail, Marshall Canyon. I'm a nurse, so it's in my heart and my soul to help people, help kids. But just moving here, we didn't know that there was this juvenile detention center up here in the trail. Me and my husband, we were walking the trail one day and we heard horrific screaming coming from over the gate. We literally ducked into the woods to try to hide because we thought somebody was being attacked. Then we learned that it was this camp. And so I'm thinking, wow, these are like kids and they're going through this, terrible things there. Now we're going to house men up to 25 is what I understand. And so it just makes me really uncomfortable having little kids here who enjoy the trail. We go to the schools here. It's just, it makes me regret moving here.
Robin Walker. You're good to go.
Hi, my name is Robin Walker. I'm a resident of Laverne. I'm really thinking about that, hearing how the main point needs to be rehabilitation for these 17 to 25-year-olds, and how many of these men are not going to have access to family because of the 3.5-mile transportation, public transportation problem. I'm not really sure how not having family support, getting them having access to the camp is going to be helpful to them. I think that's really going to be detrimental to many of them that don't have their own sources of transportation, wanting to see family weekly as they are supposed to be being rehabilitated.
Next, we have Dan Gomez.
Sorry, Wendy, can you repeat that name one more time?
Dan Gomez. There we go. You're good to go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Dan Gomez. I'm a resident of North Laverne. First of all, I just want to say I'm a little bit offended by some of the opinions of making a lot of the residents here guilty of having a different opinion. And also to my concerns here, public safety is really a concern, especially for the residents here. Knowing that a lot of these criminals being convicted of rape and there's arsonists and so forth that will be in these facilities, understanding this area, it's in a high fire area, and knowing that we're going to have arsonists that will be located in these facilities, I'm deeply concerned about that. Also, the age limit of these folks is a concern, and the magnitude of the crimes, distance from the families. Those are all really concerns for me. And maybe one potential solution for these folks is joining the military. I'm a great advocate of rehabilitation for these folks, but North Laverne is not the area for these individuals.
Krista Newble. I apologize that I'm doing a Price is Right thing, but we're having trouble with our audio. Krista Newble, you're unmuted and ready to go.
Okay, can you hear me, Wendy?
Yes.
Okay, I was actually going to say what Commissioner Lewis said when this first started. All I hear is not in my backyard. I hear people saying it's too far, but in the same breath, I hear Challenger in Lancaster being offered up. Challenger is also in the residential area. It's also by 2 elementary schools, 2 junior high schools, and 2 high schools. I hear people talking about public safety. Public safety is a concern everywhere, not just in Laverne and not just in Santa Clarita. And Challenger is 71 miles away from the community. If we're talking about them getting closer to their family, it's not an option. What makes one neighborhood more suitable than the other? I also question if anyone knows what's already in their backyard, all these things that I'm hearing now. The reason why the facilities that are already established and running are a better fit is because we already have established service providers in those areas for programming that can actually get to these kids, youth, young adults, and help them along the way.
Dale Coleman. Dale.
Can you hear me?
Dale?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Dale Coleman with Laverne. 2,500 single family homes, many with small children in the surrounding neighborhood. 2 elementary schools and multiple public parks, baseball fields, soccer fields, and tennis courts, all within a short walking distance. Walking trails, riding trails, and a public golf course, all literally at the doorstep of the facility in question. Laverne is a quiet, safe, diverse, middle-class community which, through leadership and community pride, has miraculously managed to avoid much of the crime and depravity which has taken hold in so many regions of our county. The city of Laverne is not an appropriate location for what could ultimately be home for upwards of 150 convicted violent offenders up to 25 years of age. There are more appropriate alternative locations. There are more fiscally advantageous alternative locations. I implore you, do the right.
That's your time. We do have a few more minutes, so we'll have I've got 4 more. Ruth, Spathius, Jenny, Simison, Tiffany, Burgoyne, and then a call-in user that starts with 909. So we'll start with Ruth Spathius. Your time is beginning.
Yes, thank you for allowing the time. I live in Laverne. I've lived here for 22 years. It's a great community, and from my understanding, we already have some behavioral facilities, residential homes. So my question is, why are we adding to these? And if these are grown men, and I read the documents that you put in the link, they're convicted of rape, murder, and other violent torture, sodomy, and other violent actions, what effect will these grown men up to the age of 25 or 29 or whatever it is have on these young youth that we have housed at Afflerbra and Page? If there's other facilities, the other facilities, Kilpatrick and Kirby, are locked facilities, and the ones we currently have are open facilities. So that needs to be considered.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jenny Simison.
Oh, hi.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's my husband Eric too.
Good evening.
Our company has worked for several decades with the Angeles National Forest and a lot of the wilderness agencies in the state of California. The cost of development and construction within this wilderness area is exorbitantly high. And I would like the commission to understand that the cost involved here may be a surprise to them. We would very much like to see the monies go towards the rejuvenation of the youth and not towards the infrastructure. Our concern is for the youth, and we feel that the site at Afterbaugh Page is probably not appropriate based on the cost it would incur to redevelop that site.
And also, when I listened last time you had a meeting and you looked at all the different camps, the one camp you said that was doing well is Afterbaugh Page.
Your time. I can see Chief Patino's facial expression that he would like for me to reiterate that Camps Page and Afterbaugh are currently closed camps, not open camps. We'll go with Tiffany Bergonier. Tiffany,
Hi
you can
there.
begin.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Burgoyne. I'm a resident of Laverne. I live in North Laverne, close to the camps. I think what people are forgetting that these are grown men. They are murderers, they're rapists, they're child molesters, they're carjackers. And I've read the report that states no homes can be seen from that camp. I'm standing in my backyard right now and I can see that camp. So that's actually not factual. I don't think this is an appropriate place for them. I am concerned about my kids, not the kids in those camps, my kids that like those trails. They go up, they ride their bikes, they go up there and hang out, and they shouldn't have to wonder if they're going to be safe up there while they're out having fun and being kids, not violent criminals. It's unacceptable. We don't want it here. It's as simple as that.
Okay, and our final speaker today will be call-in user number 27. Your number starts with 909-493. And you're unmuted.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Muir Davis. I'm a Laverne City Council member, Mayor Pro Tem. I joined my fellow residents here in Laverne in two things. One is that we feel as though we do support our communities and communities at the margin with David and Margaret and with the Leroy Haynes families. Our local elementary schools embrace those children as they join our children, all as a larger community to be well and lead to good lives. I feel as though a couple comments by the young presenters this evening are important to know. I believe that Laverne camps would be considered the Stockton of LA County. I think that Challenger and other distant locations would also likewise be a challenge for the $200 that are given to transport themselves simply back to their community, as well as I think very.
Thank you to everyone for your comments tonight. Please feel free to email us at info@poc.lacounty.gov if you want to provide written comment. It's back to you, Chair Carrillo.
Thank you, Wendy. Once again, thanks everyone for showing up. Want to specifically thank the POC staff, our panelists, commissioners, probation who's here, chief, have a good evening. And just leave you with this, just really a comment about our next commission meeting, which will be Thursday, January 13th at 9 a.m. You can find registration details, register on the POC website at poc.lacounty.gov. Once again, thank you everyone and have a great night. This concludes our town hall for tonight. The time is 8 p.m. and this meeting has adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.